how does SafePaaS help organizations overcome the challenges that Jeff has just described?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think Jeff did an excellent job of sort of highlighting some of the key challenges we hear from our customers that are moving at a fairly rapid pace to cloud, because it has a lot of advantages to digitize the business, support a hybrid workforce that we're all moving towards, and drive efficiencies, right? So great decisions customers are making to move to the cloud. We fully support it. Some of the challenges that we hear from our customers are in line with what obviously Jeff's experienced as well. And that's, how do we get this through with our controls intact? Because, all our customers, I would say, have some form of controls in place. Some are just more proactive and optimized, others are more reactive and informal. So what SafePaaS does is helps the systems integrators, ERP advisory firms, internal audits. There's some audit organizations that all the major audit firms have used SafePaaS as well as an example. So what SafePaaS does enables you to give you the visualization that Jeff's talking about, right? By monitoring the entire process, the life cycle. We call it SDLC controls, right? So you're moving from a let's say a dev to a test to a QA to a UAT to a prod. Maybe there's training. So you're going to Oracle and you're saying, hey, give me these 5 different instances, and I want to start, day 1 doing some conference room pilots, and I want to see what how do I post a journal entry? How do I pay an invoice? So you're having these workshops throughout the project. And what SafePaaS is doing at that time, if you choose to use it as a enabler for your project and a risk mitigator for your project, is basically to incorporate SafePaaS as the workflow tool, right? It's all workflow oriented. So for example, since today's topic is about roles, I'll focus on that, but it's not limited to roles. It can be integration, it could be process configuration, it could be RACI objects like custom reports. But focusing on today's topic is, basically when you decide to do roles, you start thinking about what roles you have today. So some of customers I can see that are attending this, SafePaaS customers are coming from an EBS world. And so we have a chat with them and say, well, who posts journal entries today? And how does that responsibility, to use the Oracle EBS term, look like today? Or if you're coming from Workday or some other SAP, whatever your system is, how do you perform those transactions, right? And then they typically have a set of roles today in place, and they have good controls in place. And the scary thing for them is that, I'm going to lose all that effort that I put in with my auditors and all that. So what we can do is provide you that traceability and analytics in SafePaaS to accelerate the process. That's that first bullet point, right? And the way we do that, you'll hear a little bit later when I talk about a solution. So I'll kind of get into a little bit more of the meat of it, but that's the first pain point that we hear from the customers. Look, I've been told cloud is fast, it's cheaper, it's all this, it'll lower my cost, but I'm bogged down with doing the role design work. Jeff and his team can come in, they can draw up the sleeves, work with you directly, or on a combination, they can also leverage SafePaaS for you, so that they're the experts, they can just do it faster in SafePaaS, right? And that's the second bullet point about workflow enablement, right? So it's not good enough just to have the analytics. Today's hybrid projects are global. Most of our customers have resources that are supporting the project out of US, India, Latin America, Europe. So it truly is a follow the sun model project today to accelerate that. And as Jeff said, the SIs are not don't have the skill sets, the advisory level of knowledge that Jeff brings to the to the table for you, where him and his team can go in and really provide you the content. So the best thing would be to start with the content, right? But many of you are already middle of your projects or already live, so you may not be able to replace all content. Maybe you can do some at a time. But what you can do is leverage our enterprise roles manager capability, which will essentially simulate that roles design process, working with an expert and the content that Jeff brings to the table with the ERP advisory service. And so we can workflow that. The workflow can go from the people that ultimately own the role. It can include your security. A CISO organization is very active in today's projects. Auditors are involved. So it'll help you collaborate with all these resources. There's a question I noticed earlier today on this web session already. It's a great question. Instead of waiting for the UAT, what can we do before that? And so first recommendation would be to start with, a content that's good, like the ones Jeff has really battle tested in the real world. And chances are most audit firms have seen that and applied the SOD policies against it, restrictive access policies. So it's good content. But on top of that, you obviously have some modifications, enhancements you'll make to adjust to your business needs. You may not be organized if you're a bank, same way as a manufacturing company would be, right? That makes cars, automobiles. So you have to adjust those things somewhat, especially as you go downstream and sub-ledger level. So being able to do that through a workflow really expedites your project, reduces the risk in the project. And finally, the last bullet point is about accelerating the timeline. So cloud is about speed, it's about results, it's about agile, making your organization agile. So one of the unique capabilities that SafePaaS has is kind of builds again on top of what Jeff is saying, is once you deploy these roles, you also want to be able to enable audit as an example, right? Or some other way of analyzing the data, comparing the results across those instances like dev, test, and so forth. So you have to provide that analytics. What SafePaaS does, it has the capability to auto-generate those BI reports based on objects. So let's say you have, you want to track changes that are made to a specific, role configuration, let's say an IT role that you've introduced to help your SI maintain the product in hypercare or post-go live. So you'll be able to generate that kind of reporting straight out of SafePaaS once the audit is enabled, or even if the audit is not available, because audit is not available for everything. And I'll get into that a little bit more with some screenshots later in the presentation. So that's how we're helping SIs overcome the deficiency, along with bringing in our partners like Jeff to help them get their skills and their, the gaps in their advisory situation met by marrying those resources and technology together.